Shout out to Michael Alicia Jr. He's a supporter on my channel and he's been supporting several of my videos lately. Go subscribe to him. He has 17 subscribers, get him to 50. Enjoy the video.
My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.
Three scary, true mansion horror stories by
Mr. Nightmare.
If you guys do enjoy the video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to click and turn on that notification bell next to my channel name so you'll stay notified on every upcoming video. But without any further ado, I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's start. Mansion horror stories. Story 1.
There's this abandoned mansion in Toronto that came up in a group chat among my friends. We saw pictures of it through a mutual friend who had recently gone to explore there. It looked immaculate based on the pictures, and we were intrigued to go check it out. It was 10 miles north from us, so the drive wasn't bad. The mansion sat on a big open grass plain, with pine trees and other foliage surrounding the perimeter of the property, acting as a natural fence or just a wall of privacy from the outside. My friends, who I'll call Chad and Brad for this story, followed close behind me as I led the way up the large gravel driveway towards the front of the unfinished house. By the looks of it, construction on the structure had been abandoned when it was near completion, as the outside foundation seemed to be finished. Our mutual friend who found out about the place had told us that he hopped through a back window that was left unlocked, so that's what we looked for. The unlocked window turned out to be in the kitchen, right over the counter, so one at a time
The unlocked window?
crawling onto the counter
That does
and then down
not
to the ground.
seem
First
normal.
impressions in the kitchen, almost
Wow,
immaculate,
look at that.
minus a few of the cabinet doors sprawled out on the floor as if they had yet to be installed. And just
If
things
I
like
would have
sheetrock
lived
boards
in
laying
there,
around. But everything seemed new, and it was a shame the construction was abandoned. The three of us kind of went our own
you get
directions
a
in the
good
house.
deal on
I went
that.
towards the living room,
Oh my
which
God.
again was almost pristine. It was a huge room that transitioned into the dining room. And then from there, a wide hallway with at least 10 different doors. My friends were already checking out some of the rooms in this hallway.
10 different doors. I'm
I
gonna
peeped into
probably
each room and realized most
a
of them
couple
were
of
bedrooms.
bathrooms,
At the end of the hall was a three-door garage.
couple of
The
rooms,
last door in the hall before the garage
another
was the
room,
basement.
a
I
closet.
called to Brad and Chad that I was checking out the basement. I got an acknowledgement from at least one of them. The basement had this bizarre spiral staircase, so when I got to the bottom, I couldn't even see the door at the top. There were no windows down there, so besides
Yo,
my
imagine
flashlight,
if I
it was
would have
pitch black.
lived in there. Oh
It was
my
a
God.
completely unfinished basement. Pieces of drywall everywhere, unfinished wood foundation where
And
walls should be.
and I
The
would
basement
have
was
a
huge.
gaming room
Like there were multiple
in
sections down there.
there.
It was big enough to fit a basketball court and more. Then I came across this back room with a few storage containers. I was here to explore after all, so I curiously started lifting the lids off the containers. The first two seemed to contain
Yo,
building tools
imagine
and
if that
supplies
was
like
me.
wood planks.
For real.
Then I heard something from one of the other containers. It was like something caused the container to make a bump sound. Could it be an animal? Or was I just hearing things? I went to the container.
Sometimes I hear
noticed the lid
things.
was not sealed
Sometimes
on
I
the top,
hear
so
someone
it wasn't
talking to
sitting
me,
perfectly snug on the top.
but there wasn't
As I
nobody
bent
there.
over to try and lift the lid, it
My
lifted
house
without me
is
touching
not
it.
haunted.
I heard a whispering noise.
I'm telling you guys right
I
now.
fell backwards on my hands as this happened. And while I was
It
on
probably
the ground,
is. Nah,
I
just
saw a
kidding.
smiling woman looking at me. The
Oh,
only thing
God.
lifting the container up was her head. She looked at me, laughed, and said peekaboo. And she laughed
Oh
some more.
God.
I ran to the top of the stairs, but
That's
the basement door was
that,
now locked.
that sounds like that
Banged on it
woman
for my
has
friends to open
problems.
it up.
She's
They were
crazy.
apparently messing
Not
with
only
me.
she's crazy.
I heard creaks on the
She has
spiral
problems.
staircase below me. I couldn't see her yet, but I could hear her laughing getting closer, and she was mumbling incomprehensible things. I screamed at the top of my lungs to please help me, and Chad finally opened the door. I ran out and looked back for half a second, greeted by this ghostly, skinny figure of this pale woman looking up at me, almost at the top step. I
Pale
slammed the door
woman, yes,
shut
you
and locked
must
it.
be on something.
Chad saw the woman too, and we bolted for the front door. We didn't care about
And do
leaving.
not worry, I am not my
Three of us got to
videos
the
are
property
not
and talking.
monetizing anymore, so I would
After an
not
hour
make
of
money
just sitting
from
in my
this.
car thinking and talking, I agreed to go back inside and unlock the basement door. As scary as what I witnessed was, I didn't want to be responsible for someone dying down there. But when we got back inside, the basement door was wide open. I promise you we locked that door, so it made no sense. We once again bolted back outside towards the car and drove home, to never return to that mansion again.
Ooh. Wow. Huh. Shouldn't call the police.
We lived in an upper middle class neighborhood. Lots of space between each house. All the houses on our street were very nice, but there was one abnormally large house. It was closer to a mansion. It sat right across the street from us, and my bedroom window could look across to the windows of the mansion. Since our street was incredibly low traffic, our parents let us play soccer in the street. So my two friends, Brian and Zeke, were playing soccer one sunny day. It was usually just the three of us, so we had this kind of free-for-all
And when
version of soccer
school used to start,
Eventually, the
when
ball
I
was
go on
kicked
the
onto the property
bus,
of the mansion, so I ran
I
over
used
get
to
it.
love hearing these
picked up the ball.
stories.
I looked at
I
all
just
the
listen
windows
to
see
the
if the
audio.
house
I don't
owner
even
was
have to
possibly witnessing me on his
watch
property.
this. I could just listen to
One
it.
of the top windows was a young boy who looked to be about our age. I hurried off the property and back to my friends. I asked them if they had ever seen the kid who lives in that mansion. They hadn't. The second time I looked back at the window, the boy was no longer there. It wasn't for a while after that, probably a month, that I
That
was in my
boy's
room playing
probably
Nintendo.
joking around
For
with
whatever
me.
reason, I got up to get something, and I looked out my window across to the mansion, and I saw that boy at the window again. He was surely looking at me, all the way from across the street. It kind of creeped me out. I walked away from the window to ignore it. Why hadn't I ever seen that kid outside before? Come to think of it, why hadn't I ever really seen the owners of that house? I asked my parents about the boy across the street. They said they were pretty sure there was no boy in that house.
Where is it?
So the next time Brian, Zeke, and I were playing in the street, we were thinking of potential fourth players to have a real game. I had an idea. I ran to the front door of that mansion and rang the bell. A 50-something-year-old woman answered. I asked if her son wanted to play soccer with us. She looked at me puzzled and said, "What son?" I replied, "The boy who was always at the upstairs window." I can't describe the look on her face besides shock and fear. She asked me what the boy looked like, and after my best description, a tear rolled down her cheek, and she put her hands over her mouth. She brought me upstairs to the room where I kept seeing the boy. It was a boy's bedroom. She showed me a picture of a kid, and asked me if this was the boy I was seeing, and I said yes.
Oh.
She told me that was her 8-year-old son, Charlie, who died 10 years ago. That woman living there had been alone ever since she lost her son and husband. She believed what I said because I nor my parents would have ever had any way of knowing about her son. She didn't tell me or
So
my parents what happened to her husband or
the
son.
boy would have
As sad
been
as this all was,
10,
it was still horrifying.
18
There was
today.
one other time I saw the boy. I was in my room, months later, and I looked out my window to the woman's mansion across the street. There he was again, at the upstairs window. I could tell he was looking at me. I shut my blind with force and tried to forget about it. It still sends shivers up my spine when I think back on it.
Damn.
I was once hired to house sit for a friend of a family friend who was going away for a week. In this case, I should call it mansion sit because the family was absolutely loaded and the mansion sat on the rich side of town in front of a huge lake. I was 21, and it just seemed like a cool job to have for a week. The family's one rule was to throw no parties and no more than 2 guests at any time, which even that I thought was generous of them. The father's name was Benjamin, and that's the only name you'll need to know. Ben left me a list of things to keep track of every night, which included feeding the 2 cats and 2 parrots, watering the plants, among other things that really won't contribute to the story.
Wow.
The house was a half hour from home, so instead of just driving there and back every day, I opted to just sleep in one of the guest bedrooms, which they offered to me after all. The first day there, I got there very late, so it was a short one that got me kind of warmed up for what to expect the week ahead of me. After doing the insignificant amount of morning chores, I hopped in the pool they had in the backyard. The pool literally overlooked a gorgeous, tranquil lake, And even with the thought of getting to enjoy this unbelievable house for a week, I was still incredibly jealous. As I was in the pool, I noticed through the giant floor-to-ceiling windows to the living room, somebody walking inside. I jumped out from the pool, freaking out.
No.
I ran to grab a towel and dry myself for a second before storming inside, yelling, "Excuse me." I didn't see anyone in the living room, so I entered the kitchen, and there was a fairly large Hispanic woman who looked to be about 35 to 40. She was just standing there as if waiting for me. I asked her who she was and why she was here while trying to keep myself composed and confident. She said in a thick accent that she was the maid who came every day to clean the floors and stuff. She introduced herself as Eliza. I instantly felt a sense of relief and introduced myself as Mike, the guy who was house sitting for the week. She spoke in as little words as possible. I don't think her English was too good, but she basically said she was going to clean the floors in the kitchen and living room now. I said that was completely fine and let her do her thing. I asked her how she got in the house, and she said she had her own copy of the key. So that was that. I went back out to the pool for a little longer to let her do her thing. When I got out from the pool, I dried up and took a shower. After my shower, I fed the animals again. The parrots were easier than the cats, surprisingly. I didn't see the maid again, but I didn't really want to get in her way and have awkward small talk with someone who could barely speak English anyway. I had a couple friends over that night because everyone was eager to see the place, but I respected their rules of only 2 guests at a time. I gave them the best tour I could. Then we kind of just chilled in the game room they had, played some air hockey and pool table, and drank a little bit. When I told my friends about the cleaning lady scaring the hell out of me, they both found it insanely suspicious. Like, why wouldn't Ben have told me about the cleaning lady? They brought up a good point, so I shot Ben a text.
I think
asking
that's a
about the cleaning
lie.
lady.
That woman,
He didn't
I don't
answer
think
right
she's a
away. I didn't
cleaning
want to
lady.
call.
She's just
My friends wanted to sleep over, but I didn't want
another
to push it.
one.
I had no idea if they had cameras in the house or not. So they left, and quickly after I started getting myself ready to lay down in bed. At some point I got a text back from Ben, apologizing for taking so long, and then asking what cleaning lady, with 2 question marks and an exclamation point. He types back, Eliza, the Hispanic woman who came by and claimed she was the cleaning lady. That's when Ben called me with a concerned voice. He got more details from me after telling me there was no cleaning lady. That was the whole reason they hired me. I felt like I had been taken for a fool, but more importantly, I was terrified that I may not have been in that house alone at that very moment. Ben told me to just hide in a bedroom and that he'd call the police for me. So we hung up, and I waited in the room for the police to arrive. I had Ben on FaceTime when the police arrived, so he could also talk to them. We all looked through the house together, from top to bottom, and we didn't see anyone. I told Ben the lady said she had a spare key, but he said he was confident that that was a lie, because they never made any spare keys. He was confident she simply snuck in when I was in the pool or outside in general. After we were sure there was no one in the house, the
with the
police left,
window.
but they
The
made sure I
window
locked
was
all the
open.
doors and windows before they did so. I spoke with
That's
Ben a
probably
little
how she
longer.
got in.
It was very comforting, and asked I just hold down the fort and call the police if anything else should happen. We hung up, and I went to bed. I locked the door, of course. I left the air conditioner off so I could hear any potential noises from outside of the room. As I lay awake, subconsciously waiting for a noise, I heard one from under the bed. It sounded like a squeak on the wood floor. I hopped out of the bed and looked under it. There were 2 people hiding underneath. One was the lady from earlier, Eliza. The other was some man probably 10 years older than her, with his hand over her mouth. They both locked eyes with me. I screamed and I ran for the door. The moment that it took me to unlock the door and then open and shut it was more than I was comfortable with. As I did, I heard them crawling out from the bed. I ran outside to my car without my shoes and drove down the street, where I called the police, and then I called Ben again. I waited for police cars to pass, and then I followed them. We once again searched the whole house and found no one. This
What?
time I didn't stick around for the night. Ben told me to go home and stay safe. The family booked a flight back home the next day, cutting their vacation short. The intruders were never identified. All that can be speculated is they walked in through the front door while I was in the pool because I didn't lock the door, and that they somehow knew the family would be gone. No further info was known.
Stupid. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys do enjoy the video, like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and leave some feedback in the comment section and see how you enjoyed the video. And other than that, hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.